Okay, I guess it's part two. I have a new stalk. A great expense. I mean, not cheap, but nice and clean and beautiful. It's a new part. Because I read that the return circuit kind of connection piece in here is typically worn. Somebody, I think in the Palms book, wrote that he had three and they were all worn, or two or three or something. Anyway, point is, it's a failure area. I thought if I buy a used one, it's going to fail again, and for a few extra bucks, I'll get a new one. So I'm going to fit it, and I thought that, let me put this on the bench, that cable is sufficiently long and deep into the dashboard that I couldn't get to it comfortably. So I thought this is a good time to take the instrument cluster out, change some of the LEDs, change some of the lights to LEDs and just clean it all up. So I got this off the internet, somebody posted it, I can't remember who, tracked that these were all correct. There's a whole lot of information here which is good for the pre-HE, which I haven't got, but I'll reconcile this. I may make some amendments. And now I'm in the car. I've taken the cowling off. I think I showed this before. This is the bottom plate, 3 screws, and then a top screw that connects to that bracket in there. So you just take all those off and this comes away. And then there's a bunch of screws here. One, pick that bit off and find it under there. There's one there. You pick a little cover off and one there, and there's one in there. And then it says, according to Palms, but I can pull this forward and get behind it. Now this should be an electric speedo, so there's no cable, and it should be just a couple of big connectors. So let's see how I go. I'll come back and show you. By the way, one thing I use is a magnetic rod. As I'm unscrewing a screw, I have the little magnetic rod here to pick the screw up, because the last thing I want to do is drop the screws, because we all know there's a billion places in XJSs where screws linger and fall into and sit for the life of the car. Well, no one said that was going to happen. I'll tell you what did happen. So I undid those 5 bolts. I undid a couple more under there, and I'm pulling and I'm tugging, and the plastic's old and I do not want to break it, and nothing's moving. And then I got my fingers just in here and I pulled it out. And there it is, which is exactly what I wanted. So now there are all the bulbs. Now, do I get to clean up the connections? No. Sure enough, there are all the lights, which I never see. I wonder if any of those are actually energized. A caravan? Who tows a caravan with an XJS? That's a very English thing, right? I guess it could be any trailer. But anyway, if we turn it around, these little clips are stuck at the end, like that, one each end, and then there's 2 there. And if I take those off, I should be able to slide this white piece out, give it a good clean, see where they're heading. Okay, a couple of screws underneath. Oh, that's disgusting as well. A couple of screws underneath were attached to there and there. This dropped away, and this piece comes out, which is nice because it gives me a chance to reaffix that and clean all this up. So similarly, there's a screw under there. I took that one out. Looks like there's another one. I'll take that out. This should come off. That should come off. And then I'll get this round bit out. Then I'll keep moving. Sorry. I've got this round bit out. I'll take that bit off, and then I'll keep moving forward. So in trying to get to the cable, this cable, so I can replace this, just taking the underscuttle off. It's just 3 screws. I just want to record what's here. I have been pulling and pulling this thing and trying to get it off, and then now as I get access to it, I don't know if you can see that, maybe just take my word for it, there's a grub screw underneath. So I'm not sure how to get to the grub screw before you take this panel out, but maybe when I take it off I'll find out and I'll let you know. Okay, here's the deal. It's a hole. That's all it is. There is a spring-loaded little device there. I don't know if you can, let me poke it with a screwdriver. It's just spring-loaded. So what I was doing when I was pulling it off was actually turning that. I wasn't getting it off at all. So I'll have to tighten that bit back up in the right spot and make sure I push that in, and there's bound to be an access point for it. Oh, there's a bolt there, look. I told you bolts land everywhere and just sit there for life. I don't know where that came from. I think I found the issue. I took these screws out, which revealed all these lights. There's the screw behind there. I take those out, I can get the dash out. So I marked where it went, took it off, it just comes away like that. It's pretty easy. Of course, the other side came off, but that's not attached to it. The other side is just to hold the piece of trim on, because of course that's attached to the steering column. So I'm going to try and just work around that piece. Okay, so I got my hand up the back, and I took out the big one in the middle, and now I can see down there, and I can probably get the other one. Yep. So the big one in the middle first, and then you can get to the smaller one on the right through the back. And look at the dirt in there. It is out. This is the one that I was able to take by putting my hand up here, sort of like, okay, like this, and then this one I had to put two hands in, one each side. My hands are huge, so I'm not the best suited for this, but I had to get one finger pushing there, one finger pushing there, and the clips look like this. There's the one, so you've got these side clips that you have to push. You have to actually pull out. I was doing that wrong. So you've got somehow you've got to squeeze them. That's it. You've got to squeeze. I'm not doing this very well. You have to squeeze them in to move that little jaw in. Same on the top. So once you squeeze here, you can get it out. And that's what it looks like. And these are the bulbs. Okay, so with 12 volts, I've been running through all the bulbs, reconciling the terminals here, attaching 12 volts over the right terminals and getting the bulbs to illuminate. A couple of the bulbs are not working. I think I found one that wasn't working. Bulbs in the harness, if you like, or the little receiver there, sometimes doesn't work, and that's because of the connections. So variously they're working, not working, and I'm working out how to fix them. Little word of lesson learnt. I used some emery cloth on the terminal and promptly broke off the copper coating to the plastic, so I've got to figure something out there. But what I'm going to try and do is clean all the terminals, replace the bulbs, get more powerful bulbs for the illumination, the dashboard illumination, probably a bright green incandescent so I can dim it, then put it all back together. Okay, little update. So the caravan light, ground, positive, here, I've hijacked the positive side and I've run this little wire, which I've curled up under there. I'm going to thread it through there, take it along here, let me go to the other side, and I'm going to splice in to the center cable here. This is the cruise control. It goes down to there and it connects up to there, and another strand goes off to this dump valve, which I've disconnected because it doesn't seem to work very well. Anyway, I'm going to take the 12 volt feed from this, I think it's pink and yellow, or it used to be yellow and black, the middle one. I've just tested it. That does provide a 12 volt feed to energize the two solenoids there when you're activating the cruise control. So I'm going to take that 12 volt and illuminate a light on the dashboard. Okay, little update. I've received these new bulbs. These are the old ones. These are the new ones, exactly the same. These are supposed to be halogen. So to demonstrate the old ones, and then the new ones, a little bit brighter. There's not much in it, but there may be enough. Hang on, let me try that again. Yeah, they are definitely brighter. That one, you can see the filament quite clearly. You can see the filament in there. Then this one goes off. Wow. Yeah, it's a little bit brighter. It's not great. But what I've done here, what I've gone around to do in the places that these go, there's 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's an extra one down there, otherwise it's symmetrical. Just sort of pried up these edges a bit and cleaned them. Be very careful. I did it to this one up here and immediately stripped away the copper, so I've got to work something out on that one. Very careful, very light. The terminals that power them are 1 there, which is the ground, and the 4, the space is counted as 2. Also, this is a ground bar. These and it is used to bridge between these points on the circuit. So if you don't have that in place, some of the negatives are not connected. Having said that, I'm still having trouble getting these illuminated. All the bulbs work, but when I put power here, it doesn't illuminate the bulbs. If I put power here and here, it does. I gotta go through and like identify where any breaks might be. Power to here, maybe test power received here, maybe it's the final connection, not sure. Okay, so what I found with these dash illumination lights, the bulb worked, the bulb fitting worked, the power worked, the connectivity between this and this worked, but it just was such a high resistance that it couldn't get enough power through to the bulb. So I put my own feeds in. It's not the most elegant engineering solution ever. See, that double wire comes down, there's a double wire out of that one, that one, and they all feed together to that earth, and then all the positives feed together, and I scraped a little bit of the plastic off of pin number 4, number 2 is blank, and then when you plug in, I bypass all of this stuff. It's a pretty ugly mess, but I'm hoping it will stay together. The actual thing brand new, once I took it out, I had tape here and here, so in original build it was put together with insulating tape. So more of the same. And then this one feeds directly into one of the warning lamps, which I'm taking over for the cruise control. So there's my solution. Okay, LEDs delivered. Green, I had a few of those before. They're the halogen lights. Red, blue, a whole pack. I think it was like 10, 12 bucks. Incredible. Those are the numbers. Mark, which is the positive and negative. And then I've pre-marked all the holes, positive there, negative, you know, so I know which way around it is. Put it in, then test it. And I'm going along the road. Okay, just putting it back in. When pulling it out, it feels like there's not much give, but the truth is, there's quite a lot of give on these cables, both of them. And it's not apparent when you're taking it out because you can't see it. The reason it feels stiff is because these cables, there's a lot of wires and there's some mass there that you've got to manipulate. So that's why. Getting it back in is a little easier. You're so familiar with the back of it by then. Remember to keep these little bits here. That looks like a fibre optic light that illuminates the light cluster switch, and then this one, the ignition key. This is my little extra wire, which seemed to have survived. I'm going to thread that through the back and connect it to this one, as I showed you, which connects to the cruise control. So I have a cruise control light. Finally got the indicators working. It turned out both of them are in upside down. The negative should be at the bottom. And secondly, the connector on the plug to the circuit, printed circuit, at the back was not making good contact. I checked every stage of the circuit and the plug wasn't making a good connection, so I bent out the terminals on the socket and cleaned up the little receiver on the plug and socket, and now it works. So everything works, and when you turn on the ignition, look how bright they are. Pretty cool. So now I'm going to put it back together. All back together. Now, if you knew where this started, it started with the wipers. There's the new wiper switch, and if I turn the ignition on, there they go, and I switch it off halfway through, and it parks. It's got the, and there are the dash lights, so the warning lights. Look at these, look how bright that is, look at these indicators. Probably not as bright as that when it left the factory. These are really good. And finally, with a little daylight coming in through the window, look at the dash lights. Beautiful, green, incandescent, and as I dim it bright, and so accomplished. Good project. Now I'm going to take it for a spin. Functions, look how bright this. Look at that indicator and that one and the main beam. It's amazing. And now I've got a new feature. If I put the cruise control on, sorry for the blocking up, cruise control on, and I set the end stalk, ta-da! I have a cruise control warning light. I know it's a caravan, but I figured if you've got a caravan, you're probably going to drive at a constant speed anyway, so that was the best one I could come up with. But I wired that up to the center wire of the feed that goes to the bellows, and now I have a cruise control light, which is awesome.